I want to get started so that way I can give respect to the women who are on the call on time. Anyone else that's going to be joining in or just has joined in, just grab a piece of paper and a pen. And we are going to start with a three-thought exercise before we actually open up the call to what we're going to be discussing tonight. But before we start, the call is Welcome to Breaking the Code of Silence, Women of Color, and Mental and Emotional Trauma. This is another She Speaks episode. And even though it's women of color are the focus, all women will benefit from this call. So just as an introduction, I'm Cal.
And I am Nada.
Hey, Nada.
Yes, I'm here.
Yay.
Hi.
All right. So we're going to start with a small exercise. So I asked for grab pens and pads, and what I want you to write down are the connotations, sort of the connection or the words that come to you when you hear the following words and phrases. I'm going to give you about 20 to 30 seconds to just write a quick blurb for each word or statement I make. So the first word is silence. What comes to you when you hear the word silence? Don't get in your head. Just what comes to you when you hear the word silence? That's first. Give you a couple seconds for that. The next phrase is being silenced. What comes to you when you hear that?
Repeat that for them, Cal.
Sure. So the first one is silence. What comes to you when you hear the word silence? In general, what comes to you? Could be positive, negative, could be neither, could be neutral. The second one is being silenced. What comes to you when you hear that phrase? Being silenced. For those that got that, the third is breaking silence. What does that mean for you, breaking silence? Or what is that in association with for you, breaking silence? The next is silencing. Silencing. What does that mean for you? Could be an example, could be a situation, could be a feeling. Don't forget, you could even write down those feelings. So silencing. So silence, being silenced, breaking silence, and silencing. So with that said, you are here on the call. And tonight, no matter how many connotations that we have with all that stuff, our goal is to break the silence. So because this is a call where Nada and I like to explore all sides, the first thing that we want to kind of get out of the way is understanding how we see silence, how we connect to silence, and understand that we're not talking about breaking the silence from a victim mindset. This isn't about trying to free yourself from anyone necessarily holding you captive, but recognizing that certain thoughts have held you captive and you might have held yourself captive in those thoughts. So once you limit what breaking the silence means for you, you limit your ability to see the intended goal. And for women of color, this is really, really an important topic because we have stigma of the strong black woman, yes, SBW syndrome, right? Then we have shame and guilt. That shame and guilt can come from family, it can come from society, and it can come from religious groups that are more religious than spiritual. And this isn't anything about religion. This is about these might have been messages we received. These are messages that could have come from parents, from partners. So what happens is we sometimes don't discuss what's going on inside of us because we're trapped in strong black woman syndrome. So to get out of that victim mindset, to kind of get into that strong black woman syndrome, Nada, talk to me. Where are we at with this?
Peace. How is everyone on the line? Thank you so much for joining us, Cal. Thank you so much, my lovely, lovely co-host.
No doubt.
Yeah, that is exactly why we wanted to do this call, because we did, of course, want to touch on some of the contributing factors of silence, but we really wanted to hone in and focus specifically on those contributing factors and how we basically accept them to keep our own self silent.
Right.
Even if it's coming from a family perspective, and even just touching on the strong Black woman syndrome, that I've personally experienced that. I know several women that I've worked with, have experienced the effects of functioning from the space of the strong Black woman syndrome, which basically tells us because we are, quote unquote, Black, we are stronger than our situation, that we don't discuss things such as depression. We don't get to take a break. We don't put ourselves first. We put ourselves last because we're taking care of everyone else, and that is something, unfortunately, that some religions back up as well. We put everybody first, and we put ourselves last, and don't we dare think of putting ourselves first, because if you do, then you've done something awful. And then when we do that, then that's when we open up the gates to usher in guilt and or shame. And then that's when we really get into that spiral of sadness transitioning into depression. And then once we hit that depression state, that's when we really feel just how out of control or lost we may be emotionally. But then by that time, we're still wrestling with the who can I tell or who can I share this with? But because that stigma of we don't discuss this is really strong in our subconscious, we just hold it. We just hold
right.
it. And for some reason, we've, of course, been taught that suppression is the way to go. We don't discuss it. We hold it. We sweep it up under the rug, and we just keep on going. Unfortunately, the subconscious will allow that sweep up under the rug to be shown in the most traumatic and explosive ways, depending on the situation. So that's what we really want to do the call. We really don't want to share, to keep the focus really on what the contributing factors are for the silence. We really want to focus on helping women to understand that, yes, there are factors that contribute, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we hold the choice. Do we continue to stay silent? That's really what we really want to focus on. Understanding that we hold the choice to continue to stay silent.
I agree, Nada, and I think, you hit on a really important point there, because I think that when we get silence, this is a hallmark trait of dysfunctional homes, societies, attitudes, okay? People don't like pain. Pain makes them uncomfortable. If you ever had anyone come up to you and say, how you doing today, and you answer honestly, I'm doing pretty shitty, they kind of don't know what to do with that, right? Because they're expecting you to say, oh, I'm great, I'm doing great, and that's not always your truth. It's not saying that you're going around with the intention of looking for a pity party. It's saying that sometimes you get to a point where you speak your truth. So when we start talking about silence and its effects, you talked about something really important, Nada, where you said there comes a point where you don't realize the crucial moment until you feel like you've spiraled out of control. Now, this is really dangerous for women of color, because our spiraling out of control looks even more together than when we are in control. We are masters of compartmentalizing, right? So we're still going along, we're still making it happen. Even our partners at home are like, my person wears a cape, the apparent partner, whatever, they wear a cape. Inside, you are dying. dying.
Mhm.
And I know both of us have had this experience, Nada. So can you maybe talk a little bit about that, really getting in tune with ourselves, because the caretaking can become so much that we get so out of tune with ourselves we don't realize it until we're in crisis. So maybe if you could just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. See, and that example in which you gave, Cal, is beautiful, and it really is. The more that I work with women, the more women come to me and share their stories, and come ready to help bring some balance to their lives. That is a really common story. I give, but then at the end of the day, I have nothing left for myself.
Right.
Or I give, and then when I do go to give something for myself, not only do I feel guilty, but I'm made to feel guilty from either my family or even my, some of my closest friends. And see, that mindset of keeping ourselves last, the whole concept of self-care, it's becoming increasingly more quote-unquote popular now. More people are really seeing the benefit of taking care of self, because that inability to put yourself first really does have the potential to kill you.
Right.
I personally walked for 14 years in severe depression and suicidal tendencies in silence. And
right.
this is the reason why I do the work that I do, because I understand from not just from an educational standpoint, but from experience of what that looks like, what it feels like being at death's door, not knowing how to handle these emotions, and then also not knowing how to handle the numbness of the situation.
Right.
And of course, that silence is what was encouraged. I even had a family member tell me, "Oh yes, I knew you were going through something. I was waiting for you to come to me for help." See, and it's things like that really keep people from opening their mouths and saying, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling, and I really just need somebody to hear me. I need to be heard. I need you to really help me, to give me some direction out of this situation." But unfortunately, just as you said, a lot of people don't know how to engage with people who are emotionally imbalanced.
Right.
And that's the inconvenient truth. Many of us do not know how to engage with people that are experiencing emotional imbalance.
Well, of course not. We haven't even figured out how to engage with ourselves, right? It's like we're sitting here trying to kind of work through our own stuff, and then we get to a point where, someone calls you and it's like, "Oh, well, I was just waiting on you." And I think a piece of that almost comes from the whole idea that really goes back to trauma, right?
Yes.
Trauma is a very specific occurrence in your life that changes every other occurrence after that. And it can be a trauma from when you were 4 years old that you don't even remember until a memory trigger happens. It could be a trauma as late as 30 years old, where all of a sudden your whole world's upside down and you had a relationship or career change or anything like that. Maybe you were suffering from addiction or anything like this. So when we look at the trauma, okay, we have to understand that sometimes trauma can lead to codependency, and then you get into a space where you're actually blaming yourself for speaking up. This is a little something I've read on and I've talked about and I've been through in my own work, because I'm going to be honest with y'all, I don't like the afterburn. That's the word of the day you get right now. Afterburn. It's the feeling you get after you speak up for yourself, and all of a sudden your brain goes into the spiral of, "Was that okay? Wait a minute, maybe it was me. Okay. So once again, you're externalizing the focus instead of bringing it back to you. Well, why did you need to say that? Well, what was going on with you? And I just want you to know that when you don't speak up about your needs, okay, it can lead to re-traumatization. So the afterburn you feel is actually coming from you not being used to speaking your needs and having them met. You've been vilified some way for them. And then that causes the afterburn, and it can also cause the self-shutdown, which leads to depression. So, Nada, I'm going to let you kind of continue on that because that's a big deal for us.
Yeah, thank you. It is definitely a phenomenon that we experience when we have the courage, when we finally muster up the courage to actually say something, and then immediately, just as you said, the afterburn of the mind or the ego or the consciousness or the subconsciousness, goes into this frantic state of, why did you say that? Or are you sure that you really wanted to say that? And so now it's this period of critical thinking. And the best thing to do is there are several things you can do with the afterburn stage. You can journal that out. You can journal that out. You can, quote unquote, you can watch it, but just don't go into it. And that kind of takes a little bit of practice to how to observe something but not become what it is that you're observing. That of course takes some subconscious visualization practice to be able to separate the two. So what I would just say is definitely journal what that afterburn period is telling you. But what I don't suggest is to renege on what it is that you just did. Because that afterburn is just, as you said, it's your subconscious not being accustomed to speaking up. It's you telling yourself, this is what I'm going to do, and that part of yourself saying, oh, yeah, that's what you're going to do, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to question you as to why it is that you just did this, because we're not comfortable with you speaking up for yourself. So the best advice or suggestion for that is to keep going through it, because at the end of the day, when all the work is done, the bottom line is we are to have our minds and our bodies under our subjection, not the other way around. And so when we renege or we backpedal or we stop speaking up for ourselves, we are basically waving the white flag to that comfortable side that chose to be in silence. We're saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't speak up for myself. Next time I won't say anything. I'm going to choose to stay in silence. No.
Right. That's really powerful. Because, it's funny, like, even when you say that, I was thinking when I was first in relationship recovery, codependency recovery, where I was just so busy looking outside myself, right? I was in a crazy state of, if I wasn't in a relationship, I was getting too intoxicated, or I was overworking, or, you know what I'm saying? Everything was 0 to 100. I never had balance. And a lot of it was to get rid of the guilt. So now I'm in that process of trying to get rid of my own shame and guilt. And all of a sudden when I experienced afterburn, I remember going to one of my therapists and saying, I feel like such a bitch. I don't even know what's going on, but I feel like a bitch. And she said something to me so powerful. She said, girl, you ain't spoke up for yourself all this time. You're going to go 0 to 100. And where you need to be is you need to be at bitch until you can come down midway. And it's going to kind of take what you were talking about, Nada. That's that practice. Is, you know what? There's times, I burnt some bridges, I've said some things, but I can honestly say that when I look at who I am right now, and people say to me, I have no idea how you knew how to handle that. I'm like, girl, it was a lot of foo pop. You know what I mean? Right. It did not come magically. It came from me having the experience of speaking our minds. And I want to kind of get in further with that, because I think culturally as women of color, we've been so objectified. We've been so muled. I'm going to throw that term in there, right? We're supposed to work for everyone and everything and never work for ourselves. That, you know what? If you went into a situation and when you first went in there, you had one mind state, but as you did your personal growth, you got another mind state, and that growth makes people uncomfortable, that is not your problem. Can we just talk a little bit about that, Nada? Because I think we feel like we have to stay stuck with wherever we went in. Oh, well, let me not grow because now it's going to be uncomfortable for them. And that's not really where we need to be at. I don't know if you want to say anything on that.
No, you know what? Actually, you said it perfectly. Actually, it's really not too much more, to kind of add to that, because that is actually the truth. You have to give yourself permission to elevate. You have to give yourself permission to expand. You have to give yourself, not just yourself, but your soul, the okay to evolve. And every time we deny ourselves that, we are literally just holding our own self hostage. So I mean, it's really nothing else that I can, actually add to that. Just make sure you just give yourself permission. It is okay. It is okay to elevate. It is okay to evolve. You have to, be okay with it. Give yourself credit for every step that you make, because no matter what somebody's opinion of you may be, no one knows your full story. Even the things you may share, it's those things that I'm choosing to tell you. You still don't know my whole story. I'm telling you part of my story. So still give yourself credit for the progress that you're making, and never be afraid to evolve. Never be afraid to, expand yourself.
And, getting to that, I'm going to take off right from there with you on that, because I think one of the things that keeps us silent, and I don't even want to say keeps us silent, because to me that's a way of taking away my sense of agency and my power, right? One of the ways that I engage in silence sometimes is by not exploring my fears. And we just had a really powerful conversation, Nada, the other day, where we were with each other, exploring these fears, and literally we were just choked up, you know what I mean, like talking, and it was around fears of finances that led to all these beliefs that, we'd always done work on, but we were at the next layer. Can we talk a little bit about why it's really important to investigate those fears?
Well, because fears are opportunity stealers. They steal opportunities. Fears steal opportunities, especially when they're not explored. And this goes back to a call that we did maybe a week or two ago about fearing the break. Fear.
Oh my God!
Fear, yeah, fear is an opportunity, or it poses the possibility of breaking away or breaking from a comfort zone, basically. Because when you are hitting the end or coming to the end of a comfort zone, fear immediately steps in. Fear immediately steps in because it is there to challenge you. To challenge you. And unfortunately, fear has been taught that it is this negative thing. And it can be. But you know how you and I we are lovers of opposites. We are lovers of both sides of the coin. So fear can be something negative, but fear can also be an opportunity for growth, depending on the perception and your willingness to go into and explore the fear and use it for a lesson. But some of us, as soon as we get to that end of that comfort, as soon as we get near the end of it, fear steps in, we stop, and we allow the fear to take over. And once that happens, then it has you. But the other option is getting near to the end of your comfort zone. You feel the fear and you pause. That pause allows you to observe what that fear is, where it's coming from, and how to engage with it. And by doing that, you keep yourself in control of the situation versus the fear controlling you. So every time that happens, you engage with it more and more head on. Does the fear go away? Possibly.
No.
But what it definitely does, it lessens its hold on you. So that's like for me. Every time I get ready to have a call or I go have a speaking engagement, people say, "Do you get nervous?" Of course I do. Well, why do you get nervous? That's my biological response to being in front of people. Do I allow it to stop me? I could allow it to stop me, but I don't. But I don't.
Right.
After those first 10 words, the nervousness go away.
And I think that really brings us home to, and I just want to remind everyone, people, I know new people have joined in, so just please mute your phones until we're able to open it up. But I think that you're bringing us back to a really important point, which is perception. You know, I literally am, I mean, you know me, my major is communication, understanding language, public speaking, understanding how we go out there. And that's my profession. And I had to learn early on to change that energy of anxiety into energy of excitement. And it was really hard to do. I mean, I'm not saying I talk to my students, my clients all the time, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm not doing that." Well, of course you're not doing it if you're not going out there every single time practicing it. This is an action. This isn't about, I just want to think about it, and then I'm just going to write about it, and then it's just going to go away. It's not going to go away until you take an action. And sometimes that action we're hesitant to take, and we're hesitant to transmute or transform that energy because of our perception. So sometimes this brings us into our next section, which is the perception of silence. How are we silent? Is silence a physical manifestation, a spiritual manifestation, a negative thing, a positive thing? How are we perceiving our silence? And just like fear can transform, the whole point of fear, actually, which people don't realize, like you just said, Nada, is fear is actually supposed to become your comrade. Fear is the trigger that says, hey, you haven't done this before, so we're going to do it. And you're going to be nervous, but when you do it, that's one more thing we conquered, and we did it. And so many times we see fear as an enemy instead of an ally. And I think in the same way, we see perception of silence as an enemy instead of an ally. So there's many ways that we can actually transform our silence, where we can speak up on the outside, but then use that silence to meditate for the internal. And can you talk a little bit about that, Nada?
You know what? Yes, absolutely. Silence is my personal space of power. I absolutely have learned how to transform the victimization of silence into my space of power. And what that means is, before I was in silence because I was afraid. Before I was in silence because I felt less than. Before I was in silence because my self-worth and my self-value and just my whole concept of self-worth was absent. I'm even going to say they were imbalanced. They were absent. I did not know where they were. They were MIA, right? So now what I've done is, as I went through the healing process of the severe depression, I learned from either source itself or from my spiritual teachers how to utilize silence for power. And I actually just gave a really great example when we were just talking about fear. When you are nearing the end of your comfort zone and you take that pause, you're not pausing and you're not saying nothing. You're pausing and you're in silence because you're in observation. You can't talk and observe. No. So you're in observation. So you're taking silence and you're utilizing it for your betterment and your evolution. You can take silence and use it to connect with your higher self to get direction and inspiration for yourself to move forward through a situation. Okay?
Right.
You can take silence and use it in meditation and creative visualization to learn how to transform a situation on an energetic level as well as a physical level. So it really just depends upon your perception of silence. And up until you hit that wall, up until you hit that breaking point and allow the breaking to happen to learn how to use it, we will always see silence as something negative. We will always see it as something negative.
Yeah, and I think, too, in line with that, Nada, is that culturally we're taught to see silence as negative.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're in a very Western culture. Eastern culture, indigenous cultures are very much about silence. It's about
absolutely.
It's about being one with it, and I would even say spiritual culture, because we're around spiritual people all the time, no matter what religion they practice. Their spirituality is one of going within and checking with their higher power or higher self, however they want to define that. And now silence gets shifted from a place of victimization to an actual place of empowerment, because now I'm getting in touch with who I am at the base level. We cannot know who we are until we are stripped down of everything. And we are taught to see that moment as a moment of defeat instead of the moment that leads to ultimate victory.
Absolutely.
Going through my own depression, going through relationships, miscarriages, all these things I've been through has these losses that I thought I could never survive. Never survive. And every single one of those traumatic incidents, every single one of those losses brought me to a self I had no idea was so divine. I had no idea was so strong, had no idea was really so powerful. And so I really want to, before we get to the questions, the last piece of this, and we kind of touched on it.
Hello?
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 Where did everybody go? Hello?
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 No? I think something went wrong. Hello?
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all of a sudden everything went blank. Yeah, no, we're back. Sorry, a little technical difficulty. I don't know, Nada, did you continue going on over there, or did we leave off at the last thing I was saying? Is Nada still on?
I'm like, I don't think she's on.
I don't think she's on. All right, hold on. Let's pause for a minute, y'all, just to give her a chance to come back on. In the meantime, I'm gonna.
Peace.
Hey,
Hey, how?
This is how serious it gets, Nada, when our energy gets worked up, man.
Right.
I'm in my kitchen cooking, and I have it on speaker, and I'm screaming, yes, and the next thing you know, everything went blank. Our energy be cutting calls out. Okay, ladies. So that's how good the call is. So we're going to finish up here with our last point that I was actually getting to before the energy overwhelmed the phone lines. So all you people out there who don't understand the power of energy, you witness it now, right here on this call with a bunch of sisters that ain't playing, okay? So really what we get down to is that when we talk about how we've been empowered, a really important piece that I think we need to mention that a lot of women are not getting and forgetting is that you really need to adjust your antennas to receive the right person to help you. And I cannot make this point strong enough. I cannot make this point real enough. I cannot be as humble as I feel even saying it. There is no way that I'm here by myself. And and so it is not to say that you know, and as we continue to call, we just want to remind everyone to just jump on mute, but it's not to say that you are incapable. It's to say you better find some good women that can forge your capability, because you've been entrusting your energy in the wrong hands. And now you need to get your energy into the right hands. And this is where we come through with the healing. And I could even hear, you know, before we have the call mute, I do love the because this is beyond. You know when you've been there. You know, and, you know, I hear a couple sisters on the line that are like, you know, some are like, that's right. Yeah. Some are like, but I don't have nobody. So what happens when you don't have nobody? Well, now you need to find yourself the right healer, because let me tell y'all, we are in an age right now where everybody wants to be a healer, but ain't not everybody done the healing. Ain't not everybody done the healing. So, Nada, can we just kind of close out with really helping women understand, number one, you don't have to do this alone. Number two, should you choose not to do it alone, you better find someone legit. And number three, how do you tune your energy into that? Go ahead, Nada.
All right. Yeah. You know what? That is a fabulous point for us to wrap it up and, you know, go into the question part. Yeah. I mean, some things can be done alone. Some things cannot be done alone. It really just depends on that person's level of capability, to be absolutely honest. There are some things that some healers can do, you know, on their own. And, you know, Cal, you and I have called each other plenty of times, and I said, look, I've tried to do this, or I've got to a certain point, and I can't process anymore. I need you to help me, you know, process through this. So it really boils down to, one, honesty. Be honest with yourself. What can you and what can you not do by yourself? Because I'm going to tell you, always reaching for the hand first, I don't care what you put it up under, you're still creating a codependency. There are some things that you must do by yourself, because that moment of you doing it by yourself, it creates a self-trust. So some of us do not trust ourselves, and if you don't trust yourself, you can't have confidence. If you don't have confidence, you can't progress. So everything falls into the next peg. So the things that you can do by yourself, do them by yourself. Those things that you cannot do by yourself, okay. When you go to find a healer, I know there may be sisters on this line and we all may have a different set of spiritual/religious beliefs. However you get in touch with the universe, God, Creator, whatever, however it's addressed, do that. Everybody that tags themselves a healer, a life coach, and everything else, honestly, has not done the healing themselves. And the danger with that is, if someone came to me with a depression issue and I had not dealt with my own depression issue, every single drop of my advice is coming from my own personal wound. It is not coming from a space of healing, because it can't, because I didn't walk the road of my own healing. When you go and find a healer, have questions. Have questions prepared for them, like it's a job interview, because it is. And actually, it's more at stake than a job. This is your soul. This is your spirit. This is your life on the line. So you must find the one that's vibrationally compatible with you. And the only time that you can do that is if they have done their healing. Ask them, have you been through this, and how did you get through it? If they cannot answer you, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. No.
And I'm going to sit down right over there. Over there, because I think that there's also a piece of us that also, see, this is what you don't understand. Your process of speaking is also your process of validating yourself. You know who you need. You know what you need. You need to pray for that courage and get that courage up to have those needs met. Getting back to the healer thing, I mean, I'm the same way now. If I had dealt with my depression, codependency, whatever, this is the danger, and this is what a lot of healers do, whether they admit it or not, because now, you know what, I'm just going to tell it. One of the issues I have is that I've seen a lot of healers that have used their clients in a codependent manner. They had no desire to see the client achieve. They had a desire to see the client achieve under them. And what happens at that moment is now your healer is hoarding you. They're not giving you your resources. They're not giving you what you need. And maybe they will shift you out to someone else, but it's someone else they're shifting you out to, a business partner, someone that can give them something too. So this is why we really need to get into intention. This is why you really need to be strong in your spirit. And I know so many women right now, whether you're on the call or they're not on the call, and it breaks my heart because I've been emotional about it all day. They are like, but I'm so wounded. I'm so broken. I'm so weak. How can I? Now I'm going to find a messed up healer. No. I'm going to stop you right there, because now you're getting back into self-abuse. Now you're getting back into that mind state. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is any prayer, any meditation, any message that's pure is going to lead you to your person. Just know that when you find that person or that thing or whatever, or whoever or however that guide is, because there's many different realms of guides. There's dream guides, there's physical guides, there's all kinds of guides. However that guide comes to you, just always be doing the work so you can always see the intention. Do the work to see the intention, because everything really comes down to the intention. And I'm going to let you, kind of rock out on that, Nada, and then we're going to get into some of the pre-questions.
Okay. No, I mean, you are absolutely right. Everything boils down to intention. And if your intention is to heal, then you must find a healer or a guide or a teacher that can share that intention with you from a pure space and a genuine space. The way to do that, and we just, discussed this, go into your space of go into your space of silence, go into your space of prayer, meditation, visualization, whatever it is that you need to do to ensure that you're being led to, or the one that's being brought to you is the one that will be the one to help you get to that next step. Everything is about intention. Nothing that we do is without intention, whether we recognize it or not. It doesn't matter. Everything is about intention.
Right. And to not engage in absolutism. That person might be here to help you right now through the next couple of weeks, but you might need a new healer in a month if you advance in quick, or you face another circumstance. So you need to also be willing to be flexible and stay in that gray and understand, some people you'll find your life partnership with. I mean, I was lucky. The last time I was speaking, I was brought to Nada. It's been a blessing in my life that I can't even explain. But, that's a lifetime. They say reasons, seasons, lifetimes. You'll know your lifetime when you find them, but you also just have reasons and seasons, and that's okay. And that's also okay in your life. Part of breaking the silence is to recognize sometimes, ladies, what you thought was permanent was just a temporary solution to an enlightenment, a breakthrough, a temporary moment to show you what you are capable of. So when you speak your mind, that's when you're really shifting the energy. And on a final note, and we're going to open it up to questions, I just also want to add gratitude, man. Be grateful, because we all struggling, and life is hard, but I can tell you, find the story of the person next to you who is harder than yours. I'm reminded really quick of when this woman went to the Buddha. She had lost her child. She was like, oh my God, I need to get over this pain. It's so horrific. And he said, you bring me this herb and I'll cure you. But when you go to these houses, the herb has to be from a house from no one that has experienced suffering. And when she couldn't find one house of one person that hasn't experienced suffering, she went back to the Buddha and said, I've gained acceptance and I don't need the herb. I don't need the healing anymore. So just really getting to that space of gratitude. Now with that, because we're limited on time, I do want to open it up to the wonderful women that gave us a couple questions. And the first question, Miss Nada Crystal, let me see you handle it. All right, the first question is, happy, is that a result of people, places, and things? And I know that we had a conversation, and you said, going in line with our last point, first let's address the intention. Take it from there, Nada.
Yeah, that question, it is about intention. What is it that you want to be happy about? One. Two, just the overall aspect of happiness. Happiness is an emotion that derives from within. Anything external is a bonus. Anything external is a bonus. And if we're searching externally for happiness, that is, number one, it's dangerous, and number two, it's temporary. Because when we start to search externally for happiness and we have not found it within ourselves, then that continually puts us on the path of gratification. And that pulls you further and further away from your authenticity and who you really are, because you're looking for it externally. So now you're going from thing to thing, and this can possibly segue into certain addictions and codependencies, because you're searching externally for something to make you feel a certain way. In my vocabulary, in my linguistics, you will rarely, if ever, hear me say that someone or something makes me happy. You will hear me say something adds to my happiness, because when I place the word make out there, that means that they have complete 100% control of how I feel. I've walked that path already. I'm not going to give nothing to nobody else 100% control over how I feel. Now, I'm in control of how much I allow you to add to me, but nothing can make me feel a certain way, because I'm in control in how I respond to external stimuli. So the answer to that is happiness is within. If you have not found your space of happiness within, then we need to do some inner work.
Absolutely. And I think
go ahead.
No. You saying we because what, girl? We because why?
I'm saying we because you may need a partner with this. Because if you've been on this path for a while and you still are looking externally for happiness, then someone needs to help you in changing your perception of what happiness is. Number one, how are you defining happiness? What does it look like to you? And because everything doesn't look the same to everybody, including those common things like joy, happiness, sadness. Define what it looks like. Find it within you first, then allow those things externally to add to it as a bonus.
Absolutely. And to that, you have to, that's sometimes when you got to do that work of maybe you need to create a value exercise. Maybe you need to start figuring out what your values are. Maybe you need to start understanding where those values came from, what the messages were that brought you there, and what values you want to have now. Because let me tell you something. You're wherever you came from, something gave you values. And at some point, maybe those values were no longer aligned with who you have become. And you have a right to your becoming. So you really got to get into those values and understand sometimes, is it to say, the other intention is, are you asked, is happiness about, well, society's teaching me I should be happy all the time? Because let's face it, every time we're exposed to media, society, whatever, they're telling us we should be happy all the time. No, can I be happy in my sadness? Actually, the other day, ladies, I was in the shower on the floor crying my eyes out and started laughing my ass off.
Yes!
Because it was my moment of total naked freedom. Like F everybody. I'm sitting here falling apart other side. So I could even find happiness in my sadness. And I think that we need to really get to a point, because you know what? That sadness for me was freeing. It was validating. It was, I am finally allowing myself to feel my pain, and damn, that feels good. So I think sometimes we need to even rephrase, you know what I'm saying? We need to, like you just said, Nada, basically, we need to define what happiness is for us and what that means.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move into the next question. And this next question was, can we have examples of some of the inner work that we can do to ensure that we break this cycle? And I just kind of wanted to jump in here, Nada, if you don't mind, because in the beginning, we kind of gave you like the journal activity of writing down these phrases of silence, being silenced, breaking silence, and silencing, and seeing what they mean for you. Well, a really great activity is now to ask yourself these questions, and I'll give you a second to write them down. First is, with each question asked, where or who did that message or thought originally come from? That's one question. The other one
Cal,
is,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm hearing some feedback. Do we need to do a mute?
Yeah. I definitely
just have their line muted for this portion.
Yeah. Okay.
Which of the messages are positive and negative? The other thing is, how do you reinforce the negative messages, and what does it feel like to do something different? What's it feel like? Because we talk a lot about thoughts, but I think people don't realize that the thoughts create your feeling, and that's why we're so hardcore on journaling. Do you want to kind of expand on that, Nada, a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Just as you said, thought, of course, that's where every action originates from, is our thought process. Human action has three core components: thought, emotion, and action. That is the three core emotions of human action. And when we take a moment to actually look at the emotion that's produced from each thought, we will find that in essence, our action is not directed from the thought. It's actually from the emotion. Example, when I sit and I sit in meditation and I burn sage, or I listen to one of my favorite songs, that song produces a feeling of goodness. It feels good. So I'm going to listen to it again because I want to experience the feeling again.
Right.
And that is a very minor example, but it really just shows how feeling is really what dictates your action in doing it over and over and over again. And again, if we're not doing the action that's productive for us, then we step into some other types of behavior to mimic or produce that feeling of goodness. So when you say, what does that feeling feel like, that exercise is designed to streamline your thinking to connect directly with the feeling of that thought. If that thought is not in the realm of what you want it to be, that puts you in the position of changing the thought to produce another emotion, or doing something that we call just rerouting or repatterning the thought process. But that in essence is what drives human emotion, is feeling. If we feel it, if we feel it, we respond to it. And this is why, what we were saying earlier about being afraid to break, you have to feel it in order to heal from it. You can't avoid it. You have to feel it to be able to heal it.
Right. Oh, I love that phrase. You got to feel it to heal it, ladies. Write that one down. You got to feel it to heal it. And I think that's really powerful because of the fact that, and this can also be done just to further answer the question, a very practical tool you can actually use is daily mindfulness. People think like you have to be in a mountain somewhere to do this crazy meditation. Actually, during the day, I made a pinpoint physical response that I would have as my trigger for reflection. And the physical response I pinpointed was my screw face, because I be giving screw face all day. The people, the circumstances and things, my lip go up, I'm like, really? I ain't feeling it. And I got to a point now where I train myself with, when that facial expression happens, I ask myself, what am I feeling? What just got triggered? And how can I change it?
Mhm.
That is a very practical move that you can take during the day.
Mhm.
That's a breath move. That's like a breathe in, I got screw face. Okay, what's going on? And that personal check-in actually empowers you because you're gaining agency over your own being. I am totally now in control of what I'm doing and how I'm reacting, and that's a very, very practical thing for me. Now, we're at 7:59, but I didn't know. I just wanted to make some room, and I'm asking people, for a 5-minute go over because this is what my spirit's telling me, and we all spirit and stuff. So if you need to, get off the line, that's great. If you can stay on the line, I just kind of wanted to give maybe 20 seconds for anyone who is on the line to actually open up and share. Or if you have a question, that's fine. So I'm going to do that now. So unmute your phone if you'd like to share something or ask a question, and then we will wrap right up in the next couple minutes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Earlier you all talked about being honest with self and what you can not do on your own and what you can do on your own. A lot of times I usually don't have a problem doing things on my own. I've always had this independent mentality that I can do most things on my own, and if I want things done right, I just do it myself. Or if I can't find anybody to help me, I just figure it out and just do it on my own. And my problem is actually asking for help or just finding people to help me with whatever issue I'm having, or if I need to talk to somebody, I usually don't have anybody to talk to. So my problem is usually the reverse of asking for help and receiving help from other people. And a lot of times, if I do end up with somebody who is wanting to help me with something, or if they offer to give me something, I have this feeling of resistance. For whatever reason, and I know I know it's okay for them to want to help me or whatever or whatnot, but I don't know, for whatever reason, it's just a feeling of resistance from wanting to receive the help.
Yeah. And I want to say to you, first of all, thank you so much for bringing that up here. I really feel honored that you brought that up here, because I think that what you're talking about is really a big essence of this call and something we've all been through. That feeling of just, it's super black woman syndrome. It's super black woman syndrome in a way where it's like, you've gone through so much in your life that when you have reached out, people probably maybe they haven't been there. And if they have been there, what's been their intention of being there, right? Did you now owe them for talking about your problem? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that, first I want to say, and then I'm going to pass it off to Nada, the first thing that struck me, and I don't know if it's because of how I feel with your energy or whatever, I feel like you're really a strong woman that kind of can read people's energy. And so you're more hesitant to reach out because you don't necessarily feel that people are capable of being in the unconditional space they need to be in to be there for you. And they also don't necessarily deserve that right. And in turn, you question yourself about that. But I don't know if it's really you or just you're kind of good at reading their energy, which goes back to, that's when you got to get those external forces and kind of choose the healer. I don't know. That's where I'm at. Go ahead, Nada.
Give me one moment here. Hold on one second. Okay. This is what it is that I'm thinking here. You are independent. You are strong. It's knowing that it's about trust, basically, with you. It's about trust. It's about trust and acceptance, just as Cal was saying, that this person is capable of assisting you. Because, there it is, because you do have that independent streak within you, you want to know that this person can actually do more for you than you can do for yourself. You want to know that they're basically capable. And that line of thinking produces a sort of distrust almost with people. So my whole thing is, let me ask you, when you go to seek out assistance, what is your method for doing that?
I don't really have a method. I think I think I wait too long till it gets to the point to where it's at like a dead end or a blocked wall, or I guess I get to the point to where it's a necessity for me to ask for help.
Okay. So let me ask it this way. When you do get to the point of asking, what steps do you take to get the help? Do you ask a friend or a family member? Do they know anybody that can help you? Or what is your route of gaining assistance?
I usually am kind of selective on who I do ask, depending on what the situation is. Whether it's a friend or a family member, or someone within my community who I feel I can trust and that I can be openly honest to ask for a particular type of help.
Okay, so I can get a feel here that it's going to be some more questions that I'm going to be that I would need to ask you to actually give you a solid answer, and I really don't want to take up everyone's time. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give you my number.
Oh, okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
313-758-9040.
Okay.
Hold on one second. And how did she find out about the talk?
On Facebook. It popped up in my I have like the event section.
Okay.
Of Facebook.
So okay, do me a favor. As soon as we're done with this question, go to my inbox. Inbox me and say, Nada, this is blah, 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 blah. Inbox me to know that this is you so that I'll know who it is that I'm about to connect with. And then I'll message you back with the, appropriate time for us to connect one, sometime this week.
Okay.
Because there's something specific it's something specific that you need, and I can't get to it on this call. It's a series of questions that I need to get to you, and I don't want to do it on the call.
Okay.
Okay. And what's your name, sister?
Clarice.
Clarice?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that what you bring up, sis, is a very important thing on our ability to be vulnerable. And this is what I'm going to say as we close out the call is sometimes our ability to be vulnerable has been hampered by external forces or internal forces, but also looking at our path of being able to trust is a huge issue in how much we are willing to receive help. And if that help isn't given to us in the way that we need the help to be given to us, we can also enter a drift of almost like, oh, well, what am I not worthy to help? Or, almost an arrogance of who do you think you are that you can't help me when I've been there for you. There's a lot of ways that we can approach it, but I think that root cause of why the trust isn't there is a really important piece to start with. And I would also say, just as this is to every woman on the call, because we're closing out, and this is our last call for 2015. And the topic's going to be continued in further depth when the calls resume. But for everyone that's on this call right now, I want to charge you with feeling valuable, like really feeling valuable, and to really feel so valuable that if someone doesn't help you or doesn't assist you or can't help you or can't assist you, that it's not a reflection so much of you as much as it's a reflection of how you feel about your own worthiness. We have to break the silence, really recognize that at all stages, no matter how batshit insane, no matter how beautiful they look, in all circumstances, we are worthy. We are worthy, we are valuable, and we deserve attention. Not in a negative way, but attention. And that could just be the attention you give yourself in an evening bath for 1 hour a night just to get away from everything. But we've got to get to the centering. So before we close, I really just want to get to our takeaway points, because Nada and I love a takeaway. We love takeaway, and we call it the PowerPoint special. So the things we went over tonight is how we internalize messages and silence ourselves. That's something in a journal you can explore. Letting go of the guilt and shame. Getting back in touch with ourselves to avert crisis, or to ride the crisis out, because I've created a couple crises this week. That self-care is not a luxury. It's a necessity. That we are going to deal with afterburn. That you have to stop holding yourself hostage. That fears, when not explored, as Nada said, and you can quote her on this, she stated, fears, when not explored, are opportunity stealers. I love that. I love it. She also coined this evening, in order to heal, you have to feel. Shifting perception of silence to take back your power. Finding a capable healer, and gratitude. So those are some of the major things that we talked about tonight. And I cannot really, speaking of gratitude, I really cannot express my gratitude for everyone on the call and who you are and what you're bringing to this world, even when you think you're not bringing anything. It is so powerful and so amazing. And you are capable every single day of breaking the silence. And this has been another phenomenal She Speaks call. Say love you to the people, Nada.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
And thank you so
awesome.
much. Yeah, go ahead.
This was awesome. Just awesome.
Yay!
Oh, thank you.
I've got to tell you, it was pretty awesome on our end, too, you know? And we want to thank you all for all of your energy, because we know that our energy was so aligned on this call. We were so determined on this call that we broke phone circuits, okay?
Yes.
So I am really excited about this energy that now we're going to take home, we're going to carry out, and this is what women of color and all women everywhere need every day. So thank you so much, and next time we will see you. Stay tuned to our page. If you need to reach Nada on her email, it is woman, WOMAN, .arise @yahoo.com. One more time, it's woman, WOMAN, .arise @yahoo.com. And, of course, you can see us on She Speaks with Nada Crystal on Facebook. Thanks so much, and have a great night, ladies. Let's bring the beer in and run it.